Afternoon, everybody. It feels great to be speaking in this event in front of all of you. Thank you very much, ENGLICOM, for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here. And I really enjoyed Dr. Simon's talk. Actually, I will just be building on what she said a while ago. She gave more of a psychological perspective, more of a talk about wellness that is based on science and research. And mine will be kind of more coming from my personal experience, more coming from introspection. So I hope that you guys could relate to me somehow and that I can deliver value to all of you this afternoon and give you that encouragement that you might need to hear. So I just want to flash up on the screen right now a couple of words. And so these are some of the words that have come up this year, and I believe these are some of the words that have increased in usage over the past 9 months, as reported by Google and by Oxford Dictionary. So I just want to do a little survey. Let's make this interactive. I want you guys to just type in the chat one word you could think of when you think of the year 2020. How could you describe it? What is an adjective or a noun or an action? I just want you guys to type it down in the chat quickly. Just one word. Scary, pause, chaotic, draining, fail, new normal, reflection, Zoom, stressful, right? Panicky, panic, anxiety, sad, quarantine, home, ACADS. I love how all of these words are coming out. They're different. We've got nouns, we've got adjectives, we've got action words. I love how we each have a different perspective to sum up the year. And I just want to share to all of you, I'm seeing that a lot of this is really, as came out in Dr. Simon's talk a while ago, right? A lot of negative emotions that we're feeling. And I'm sure that all of us have felt that at some point in the past 9 months. I feel that although it is that case, it is something that is this year is something completely unexpected and completely drastically different from what we expected it to be 9 months ago. I think that this year could still be a season for us to bloom. This is a time wherein we can still grow. Next slide, please. There. I feel that this year is still a season for us to bloom. And so this is a talk that will encourage you guys to see that side of this season. And before I go into the tips or the advice that I can share to you guys based on experience, I first want to acknowledge 4 things that I think hinder us from growth. 4 things that we can control that hinder us from growth. Now, fear, overthinking, discouragement, and ambivalence. These are 4 emotions or 4 states of mind that I think can be healthy to a certain extent. As Dr. Simon mentioned a while ago, we have emotions for a reason, right? And we're not built to just be happy and positive all the time. So it is healthy for us to have a certain measure of these 4 things at some point in our lives. But when it becomes too much, when we are overwhelmed by them, it becomes paralyzing. And so I want to first start with fear. Fear is, as mentioned, one of the emotions, one of the many emotions, right? Think of that movie Inside Out that was flashed a while ago. It's one of the good emotions that we have, but sometimes it's paralyzing. And I want us to have a more healthy perspective about fear. And I want to share to you guys what one really great speaker said about it. It's that fear is a made-up story about something that hasn't even happened yet in the future. So do you guys know that you imagine every time you fear something, you visualize something about the future every time you fear something? it's very clearly pictured out in your head. Like, let me just share. A while ago, I was quite anxious for this. I was actually quite nervous and anxious to give this talk. And so I started picturing how I would be giving it later on. And all of a sudden I started feeling my heartbeat pumping, and like just feeling that anxiousness in my body. Do you know that every time you imagine something about the future, your body doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And so when we fear something, our body reacts to it, right? So that's what I felt a while ago. And I just want to acknowledge that, keep in mind that imagination is there when you fear something, all right? Now, let me go to overthinking. Overthinking is when we ruminate over something in circles, when we go on in circles, thinking about something again and again, nonstop in a vicious cycle, whether it be about the future or when we dwell too much on the past or what is happening currently. That is something that can also leave us paralyzed. And I think that it is unnecessary added baggage for us, because we don't really need to dwell on these thoughts, but we do, right? And sometimes we just, I don't know, we just feel like overthinking. We just feel like entertaining those thoughts. And that brings us downward, on a downward spiral of emotions sometimes, and making us prone to anxiety and depression. I don't know if you guys have felt that before, but I have personally experienced that. I tend to think a lot, you know, I love to reflect. So I tend to overthink sometimes, and sometimes it's very unhealthy for me, right? So overthinking is also paralyzing to a certain point. What about discouragement? Discouragement or a lack of motivation due to something that is going on in our environment. Just take this year as an example. I'm sure that all of us had experienced discouragement the past 9 months at any point, right? I mean, this pandemic is something that the entire world is experiencing. It's not just what that phenomenon in the entire world. It could be something that is happening in our very country. It could be something that is happening within our homes even, right? Anything that is happening in our environment that discourages us and just makes us feel like not doing anything, or just leads to overthinking too sometimes. Apart from what's going on in the world when we shoulder those burdens, another thing is comparing ourselves to other people. Sometimes, well, I personally am a victim of this. Sometimes I see other people whom I really look up to, or some people my age who have achieved so much. I tend to compare to myself and wonder why I'm not in that place that I want to be yet, right? Discouragement. And another thing, the last one, is I think something that is deep inside of us, that we need to acknowledge. It's that ambivalence or that indifference or that being unsure about ourselves and our convictions, what values we hold, where we anchor our sense of meaning. Because I think that in a world full of information and just, you know, so many influences here and there that we are being bombarded with every day, sometimes we just go along with the waves, and we just follow, or we just copy whatever opinions other people have, and we take them as our own. And then when something else comes up, oh, I want to copy that too, or I agree with that completely, right? There is that sense of ambivalence, that then confusion, that I'm not really sure what truths I believe in or what values I hold. Sometimes we have that sense too. And so acknowledging these four things, fear, overthinking, discouragement, and ambivalence, I want us to turn that around, because I want to share with you this afternoon 5 ways in which we can respond to those 4 things. So 5 ways, these are when things are tough outside. Just imagine a stormy weather. Like, just imagine a really bad stormy evening. It's raining really hard and it's crashing on the roof of your house, and you're inside your home, cooped up inside your home on your bed, with a nice warm blanket, a knit jacket, a hot cup of coffee or tea, watching Netflix, and, you know, enjoying the air conditioning, right? It's the same sense when everything is going crazy outside in the world, right? Um, we there is value in going inside, in looking inside, and in really building on what is in there, and really finding rest in what we have within us, right? It's kind of the same thing as that, building that, having that warmth. And when you build what is inside, when you derive that sense of meaning from inside and you emanate it to outside and radiate it to your community and the people around you, then you are able to deliver value, right? So I want to share with you ways wherein you can start from within yourselves to respond to those four things. First is curating your influences. And when I say curating your influences, I just want to share that sometimes we have triggers of fear that come from our influences, that come from the things that we expose ourselves to online, the people that we listen to, the movies that we watch, the things that we read, right? They trigger a sense of fear, overthinking, self-doubt, or whatever anxiety that we have. These negative emotions, sometimes they trigger us unexpectedly, right? And so my advice to you, number one, would be to curate those influences. Try to minimize those unhealthy influences as much as possible. I'm not sure if you guys have watched Social Dilemma yet. I love that. Documentary on Netflix. I encourage you guys to do so. We unconsciously respond to what we see. It's just a matter of psychology, right? So we must be very intentional about choosing what appears on our feeds, what we expose ourselves to on a daily basis, because we sometimes fall prey to them without being conscious about them, right? So we are actually given the controls. We are already given the chance to control our privacy settings, or to unsubscribe to newsletters, or to mute certain people, or to mute certain kind of content, or sometimes to even unfollow people. If that is necessary for you to have a better sense of self, or just a more enlightened mental health, then do so. It's necessary for you to do so. And I would encourage you to as well cut back on the time that you spend doing the endless scrolling, and keep yourself busy with something else. I'm going to share more about that later on. Now, number two is to imagine positives, okay? Imagine positives. We don't just give ourselves a pep talk. It's best if we imagine something positive vividly so that our bodies can feel it. Earlier on, let me build on what I said earlier on about your body's feeling what you are actually imagining. Your body's reacting to whatever thoughts you have in your head, unconsciously, subconsciously. So let's try a quick exercise, guys, okay? I invite you all to just close your eyes quickly. Close your eyes. Quick visualization exercise. I want you guys to think of an event in the future that you are anxious or fearful about. Something that worries you, anything about the future that can go both ways, that can become positive or have a positive or a negative outcome. Now, let's start with that negative outcome. I want you to vividly picture that. I want you to imagine where you are, the people that are around you. Imagine that space. Where exactly are you? Who are you with? What are they saying? What are you saying, or what are they doing? What are you saying? And then how do you feel about what happens? Okay, now let's try to turn it around. Let's turn it into something positive. Totally flip it, okay? Now I want you guys to imagine yourselves in the same space with the same people, and what do they say, or what do they do? What do you say? What do you do this time that goes completely different? Right? Could they be smiling at you, encouraging you, clapping at you? What is that? I want you to feel it in your five senses. What do you touch? What do you taste? What do you hear? What do you smell? Right? What do you see? Okay. Now imagine that vividly. Keep that picture in your head and open your eyes. Okay. Now that was an exercise into turning something that you're anxious about, something in the future that you're worried about, into something that is positive. I actually did that a while ago, before preparing for this talk. So you guys might want to try that out, because I think it's a great way for you to really feel inside your mind and your bodies something great that can happen. Because if we already have the power to imagine, why don't we use that instead of imagining something negative? Why don't we use that to imagine something positive, right? So it's more of just taking control of what goes inside your head. All right. Next is to become creatively grateful. And when I say being creatively grateful, you know, there are numerous benefits to having a more thankful attitude. And I know this is so cliche, seeing the glass half full, but it's something that, although we know, we don't really practice that well, or we don't really turn into a habit. So, you know what, you guys, we are never too old to say thank you to everybody that we meet. We're never too wise to count our blessings every day. From being in a place of comfort down to just being able to live and breathe, whatever it is, there's always something for you to be thankful for. And that's what I want you guys to keep in mind at this time. So let's do another quick exercise, okay? I'm gonna ask you guys to close your eyes one more time. Close your eyes. And I want you guys to think of 3 things that you are grateful for the past 9 months. 3 things. Try to make it as detailed as possible or as descriptive. So it could be something that somebody told you. It could be an event that happened. It could be a small achievement, something that you learned, something that you did that you never thought you'd be able to do, right? Anything positive. It could be as small as having a really good dinner last night. Okay, 3 things. Okay, now open your eyes again. Now I want you guys to just share this with a group. Let's take an inventory. I want you guys to share it with a group. Just type down in the chat quickly, what is one thing, just share one thing that you are really, really thankful for the past 9 months. Just type it down so we can all get good vibes from each other. Come on, growth. What else? Just type really quickly, one word, a few words, come on. Family, family, friends, wow, that's amazing. Time with family, loved ones, support of friends and family, friends, affirmation, wow, that's awesome. I mean, I'm really thankful for growth as well. I'm thankful for having more time with friends and family. Absolutely. That's really something that I never really paid that much attention to. But now I feel like I'm so clingy to my family. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way, but I love how you guys shared that this is about relationships, redirection. That's beautiful. I think there tends to be transformation in all of us in some way, right? The past 9 months. So thank you guys for sharing, right? Relationships, that's a beautiful theme that really came out. Health as well really came out. And I love how you guys shared all of those things, because we all share that collectively. Having to be stuck in our homes, we really value relationships more. So thank you for that. Now, I encourage you guys to turn this into a habit, because I've tried doing this before. For 21 days straight, I can turn it into a habit. I start the day or end the day by looking at the mirror and telling myself 7 things that I am grateful for. Okay, so why 7 things? 7 things, because sometimes you stop at 3. Sometimes you have really like cliche ideas of what to be thankful for, right? So after 3, you need to be a bit creative. You need to add more things. Okay, so I got 3. What are other things? So that really helps you to become more creative and to really get those thoughts out, to really get yourself to think of what to be grateful for, right? So I encourage you guys to do that, because something new, I'm sure that something new will come out every day. And that really builds a wonderful mindset. You start with a habit, and if you do it consistently, it becomes a state of mind. It becomes a state of mind that you are thankful, right? So I want you to continue doing that. I challenge you guys to do that, because that is good for your mental health, and it makes you feel more positive, and it really, really encourages you to become a positive light into the people around you, right? So thank you guys for sharing. Now I want to move on. Aside from having the right mindset and curating our influences, it's also really taking action. Because a while ago I shared 4 things that make us paralyzed, right? Those 4 things make us paralyzed to a certain point. Now I want us to take action, because sometimes that is the only way to stop all those 4 things from affecting us, right? Sometimes, you know, taking action can take away fear, can take away discouragement, because what we need to do is to really just do the next thing, all right? To really just do the next thing. And when we do the next thing, it's a small step kind of thing. We do the first thing that we need to do, and then we do another small thing, and then another small thing. There's this saying that goes, inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's too hard. So sometimes you just need to do something small, okay? And I just want to share to you guys that in the process of writing the outline for this talk, I actually felt like I actually had a moment of insecurity or anxiety. Like I had that quick attack, I was writing, and then I was actually mulling over something about the future, something very specific about the future that I was getting a bit worried about already. And I did a very bad thing. I went on Facebook, on social media, and just scrolled mindlessly. And I saw a friend of mine, a friend that I really look up to, just somebody that everybody looks up to, beautiful, smart, you know, wealthy, and she posted about this small achievement of hers, that she was in a place that I wanted to be. She had the job that I wanted to have, or she had the career path that I wanted to have, and that all of a sudden made me feel anxious even more. Made me feel more insecure, and got me to question why I am here, or why I'm not where she is. And I just got really jealous at that moment, and it really got to me. It really got to me. But all of a sudden, as I was thinking, and I was just sitting down, paralyzed, staring into blank space, all of a sudden, like, there was this thought at the back of my head saying, Hannah, you've got to do something. You've got to do something. This has happened to you so many times before that you can't let this win over you. You've got to do something, and you can't be a victim of your negative self-talk. It's just you who's saying those things to yourself. So you've got to snap out of this. But does it have to be tomorrow? Because at the time I really felt like just sitting down and watching TV, or Netflix, or doing something distracting. But I said, you've got something to do right now, so you might as well finish it already. And so I really dragged my hands onto my laptop, and I started typing away. I just started typing, continuing writing the outline. And how ironic, I was writing about personal growth, and there I was, quite struggling a bit at the moment. So I started typing, and then little by little, the words started to flow. The thoughts started to come in, and little by little, I felt the emotion. I felt a change, a shift in emotion. All of a sudden, I started feeling a bit more positive, a bit happier, a bit grateful that I actually have the privilege of giving a talk to about 100 students, that I have that privilege of inspiring people. And so I started feeling it, and my mood just picked up, right? So a while ago, Dr. Simon shared some quick fixes to taking action to just, flip your mood around. And that's true. I mean, that stuff is really effective, right? With me, it is writing. Sometimes it's also exercising. I love doing yoga also when I feel stressed. I love doing just a workout at home. I agree, there are a lot of really good YouTube workouts. And you can do yoga just in the comfort of your room, right? So you should have like a staple activity. Yes, the ideal burger, if you will, to do every time you feel down, every time you feel paralyzed, right? Because it really, really turns your mood around. You just need something to kickstart your engine really quick. something to give you a nudge. It could be hugging someone, it could be reading something, whatever that is, go back to that thing. Okay? It's really the best way to stop overthinking, to snap out of your rumination, and to just do the next thing, even when you don't feel like it. Because when your body leads, your mind and your emotions follow. It's very powerful. Now, I want to share with you the fifth and last one, which I think is very, very important. This is more of really looking at what you got inside, and it's really about being authentic. And when we say being authentic, it's really about expressing your naked truth. It's about being transparent. It is about being honest as a person. It is about being the same person that you are to your family, to your friends, to the people that you work with, to strangers. So you want to be sure that you align who you are. Okay, you don't have split personality, but you align with you completely align who you are to different people. That is being authentic. That is being truthful about to yourself, toward other people about yourself. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be authentic because of the waves of culture, as I've said a while ago. Sometimes we feel influenced, or we feel pressured to be people that we are not. But I hope that you find within yourself, you have to make that decision to be who you truly are, and to be honest with who you truly are, because that's something that people find endearing. And when you have no pretense, when you admit mistakes, you are capable of admitting mistakes, you're unashamed in expressing your convictions about yourself, you're not easily faced by the culture anymore, because it's really building that solid foundation inside of you, right? You really have that deep internal compass, and people say that you're genuine, and people say you are confident, and people say that they are inspired by you. I tell you, that's really, really important. And I want to use that to jump off to the next thing I'm gonna teach you guys, or to share with you guys, which is to really grow this season. There are 3 ways that I want to help you guys, 3 things that you can do to grow this season, right? So that number 1 is to discover more about yourself, and that's related to being authentic. It is related to having a strong sense of self. Now, in the same way, like you guys work out in the gym, or you do circuit training, or you go jogging, you really pump up your heart rate, and you really warm up your body. You build or you tone your muscles. When you do more introspection and you try to understand yourselves better, it's like you're building your meta muscles. You're building that inner self. Okay, so I encourage you to do this. Now, first is, before that, confidence I want to share is the outcome of really having a deep sense of self, of really knowing these 5 things about you, feeling secure in your own skin without the validation of people around you, while keeping a healthy desire to become a better human being. Right? So these 5 things are things that you can discover more about yourselves. I encourage you to do this introspection in this season. First is knowing your values. Okay? These are one of the 5 anchors, knowing your values. What drives you, right? What is your source of truth, really? Where do you derive truth? What are the most important things to you in life? I want you guys to think about that for a moment. What are your principles on relationships and friendships and work? What gives you meaning? And when you think about sources of truth, more often than not, these are very deep inside of us. These are very deep things that we must face, and more often than not, they are spiritual truths. So where does your spiritual belief lie? Where does all of this emanate from? Okay, what is your source of absolute truth? What do you believe? How do you see life and the meaning of life? Those are values. Now, innate strengths are things that we possess since childhood, those natural abilities that we had since childhood. And these are things that people would often say that makes us unique, that makes them trust us, that make us different. These are things that people say we are naturally skilled at or good at. These can be characteristics. Some examples are optimism. Are you positive naturally? Do you have a tireless sense of curiosity? Are you a funny person? Are you humorous by nature? What are those innate strengths that you have? Knowing your innate strengths is important. And then you also want to reflect on what your passions are. What are your deep interests? What do you keep going back to? What's an activity that you always go back to? When do you feel most energized and expressing yourself most fully? A while ago, I was introduced as loving two things, loving to write and loving to learn. And those are two of my very core passions. Ever since I was, in high school or even in grade school, I enjoyed doing those two things. So what are those? They might not just be topical. They might be activities that you love, right? So keep stock of them. I encourage you to put an inventory of your passions down. And then have a picture of the end that you want to have in mind. Now, I want you guys to just quickly, you don't need to close your eyes, imagine yourselves at a big birthday party many years into the future as a senior citizen. Let's say you're like 60 years old, 70 years old already. You are physically and mentally fit at that time. Okay, you're physically and mentally fit. You're at a big birthday party. It's your birthday party, by the way. And people who really matter to you have gathered to share something about you, the contributions that you made to their lives, and the qualities that they appreciate about you. Okay, now think of three people from three different aspects of your life. It could be a colleague, a close friend, a family member, a stranger even. Think of three people, okay? Just, I want you guys to grab a phone or just type it down on your laptop somewhere. Just think of three things that they would say about you. What do you want them to say about you? How do you want them to describe you? What impact have you made in their lives, really? What are those three things? Okay. Now, if you have thought of those three things, and you can continue your reflection later on, but thinking about those three things really helps us, try to shape who we are right now to fit that outcome that we want, right? If we want people to say that we have inspired them, what do we need to do, right? Or if we want them to have said that we contributed in this particular field, what do I need to do right now so that I would reach that point, so that it will be a natural outcome that they say this thing about me, right? So that is the vision. That is a very vivid picture of the future that you want, okay? Now, putting those four things together, if you take stock of your values, your innate strengths, your passions, and your visions, it will give you a clue into it might show you a pattern of what your core purpose is in life, what your reason for being is in life. What is your sense of meaning, or what really gets you to wake up in the morning? That is your core purpose. Now, if you guys are familiar with writing a mission statement, I'm sure you have a mission statement for your organizations. If you have written a mission statement before for your organization, why don't you write a mission statement for yourself? I encourage you guys to do that, because we take all this time doing this for other people or for large groups. We don't take the time to think about our mission statement for ourselves. So take that time to reflect and discover more about yourself, to strengthen your sense of self, to build your meta muscles. Now, once you have learned more about yourself, another way that you can grow this season is to explore and to learn. To explore and to learn is an amazing feeling, right? Because you know yourself better now, you can develop yourself based on what your strengths are, or based on what you think your gaps are. So you can build on your strengths, or you can also fill in the knowledge or the skills gap, right? And I guess the reason why you are here today is because you want to learn, you want to develop yourself. So you're already doing it right now. So I encourage you to push that further, right? That's one way to really cope, right? When you're not feeling good, I personally, when I'm not feeling good about myself, I like to get refreshed. And my way to feel refreshed is to really distract myself by learning something new, by exposing myself to to very different perspectives, right? And sometimes when we get stuck doing one thing, it helps to expose yourself to a completely different field or completely different ideas because it refreshes us. It provides us a different perspective that is new, so that when we get back to that thing that we are doing, we become, we have a creative mindset. We are able to cross-pollinate that idea that we get from something new that we learned into what we're currently doing. So it is really, really helpful to learn something new. And I encourage you guys to do that. I mean, you're already doing it, but continue to pursue new hobbies. I'm sure that you guys have tried something new, but I encourage you to continue doing that because it feels great. Instead of passively absorbing or just, taking in everything, all the information, like taking in what is happening around the world, be proactive in learning and applying. Okay. Now I want to share with you guys three things that, three M's actually, that allows you to learn more effectively. This is something that I learned from Jim Quick, a brain coach that I follow. And he said that number one is mindset. In order for you to learn something effectively, you need to come with a mindset of wonderment and curiosity and excitement about whatever it is that you're going to learn. And another thing about mindset is for you to suspend your limiting beliefs, because sometimes you tend to think or overthink that you're not good at math, or you're really not a good speaker, you're not a good communicator, or you're not really an artsy or creative person. But that's just a lot of negative self-talk, because sometimes we tend to mistake weaknesses. We tend to mistake a lack of knowledge or a lack of skill as a weakness. It's not really a weakness because we never really tried it before. So we might as well do something about it. Let's build on that, and let's challenge those limiting beliefs that we say to ourselves, right? Proving ourselves wrong. Another thing is motivation. Motivation is really the drive and the purpose, that level of energy that you bring into your learning. So what's really important, because I know that sometimes we get excited when we're about to learn something new. And so that really kickstarts the motivation, but sometimes we are not able to sustain that motivation. So that's really what is important, sustaining the motivation. And in doing so, in some ways for you to do so could be to ask yourself or go back to your why. Why are you learning this new thing? What is the outcome that I want to achieve for learning this thing? What do I want to do with it? How am I going to use it? So in those two ways, I think you'll be able to put yourself back in a mindset of, yes, I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue doing this. Or another way for you to do it would be to learn with other people, to have an accountability partner to share your learnings with. I mean, that's quite what you guys are doing here. I saw your org's events page, and there are so many things going on. You've had so many workshops and talks, and I think that's great because you guys are finding ways to learn together in this season. So I encourage you guys to continue doing that, right? Now, next is method. Although we have the mindset and the motivation, we might not really know what the smartest way or the wisest way to learn is, because sometimes we think that we're absorbing so much information, but we are not really putting it into practice, or we really haven't learned it well or effectively. Sometimes, it comes in one ear, it goes out the other ear, right? So the method in learning and being strategic about the way that you learn will help you pound that into your long-term memory. Okay, so I encourage you guys to be smarter about the way that you learn. And part of that is to really put whatever you learn into practice, or better yet, teach it to somebody or reflect about it, right? Those are things that you can solidify your knowledge. Now, if there is a need or desire for you to learn, just make sure that you follow through on whatever you do. So mindset, motivation, and method. Keep those three things in mind every time you learn something new. Now that you have learned something, now that you're learning things, it's time for you to culminate them. It's time for you to culminate them by teaching and creating. That is the third way for you to grow this season. I just want to share with you how I started Own Bloom. At the start of the year, I struggled with a feeling that I had no avenue for creative expression. I felt like I spread myself too thin over the years, and I didn't really have an anchor. I didn't really have something that I could go deep into. And I don't know, I just felt really discouraged at the time. But for some reason, at the start of the pandemic, at the start of the lockdown, two people actually approached me to write articles for their publications. So I wrote 2 articles, and then another article followed another, and then another. So I already had 4 articles, and then I realized that people wanted to learn about this particular topic. And so I organized a webinar to teach people what I knew about those topics. And then one webinar led to another. And then I also organized some events as well. I organized another event. And then aside from those, because I've been learning a lot of things, I've been finding ways to really churn them out. So I write about them and I create content online. I post a lot on Instagram, and then I would do vlogs as well. I would post on publications again. And so I really found my way into my own thing because I just did it. I just started creating, and I just started putting my work out. And little by little, I understood, or I knew more about the topics that people wanted to hear. People would start asking me questions, or sometimes they would ask me advice. And it actually led me to be here today, to be speaking to all of you because you guys saw my work. So why am I saying this? I am encouraging you guys to put your work out there as well, because you will never know who will be encouraged by it. You'll never know. I mean, one thing is you're just doing it so that you could practice your skill. But another thing, and the real blessing behind it, is that other people are blessed by what you guys are doing. So I encourage you to do that. Whatever it is that you feel you are good at, or you're still learning, it doesn't matter. Just get the work out. Just get the work out. And so I just want to let you know that there is power in your voice. Each of you have a unique voice. Each of us has a unique voice, just like our DNA, right? Our existence makes an impact whether we like it or not, and it is our choice, whether we want it to be a positive one or not. And so reflect. Who are the people in your tribe and in your space that you want to influence, really? What kind of influence do you want to create with your voice? Start from that outcome, and then build yourself from there. And think about what you can create as well, right? Is it a painting? Do you love to paint? Do you love to bake? Do you love to write? Do you love to sing? Do you love to dance? Whatever it is, that form of expression that you have, get your work out there. I mean, the internet has really leveled really leveled the field for everybody. Anybody can be an influencer nowadays. Anybody can encourage anyone nowadays. It's a free platform. So I hope you take advantage of that, right? So think about that. Think about what knowledge and skills you can impart. Think about the avenues wherein you can do this. It could be simply your circle, your Facebook friends, your Instagram followers, your TikTok followers, whatever. Just do something. I encourage you. And when you create, there's also a space for you to teach. I personally love to teach. I love to teach people what I know. And it's just a matter of sharing my experiences. So I hope that you guys can do that as well, right? Culminate all that you have learned thus far. This way, we can be vessels and not just reservoirs. We don't just keep absorbing, but we create. And so those are three ways that we can learn this, three ways that we can grow this season. Next slide, please. Okay, so to summarize this talk, we talked about the hindrances, the four things that keep us from growth, which may be healthy but paralyzing if excessive: fear, overthinking, discouragement, ambivalence. But also, there are ways to circumvent those four things by responding, curating our influences, building on what's inside, imagine positive outcomes, being creatively grateful, taking more action, and doing what we can to express ourselves authentically to the world. And then we push on and find ways to grow further by discovering more about ourselves, learning and exploring, and then creating and teaching those things to the world. And so with that, I thank you so much for being here. I hope that I was able to encourage you, to instill any kind of ideas for you guys to take away, to bloom better this season, because it is, after all, a season for you to bloom. I just gave you a framework to do that. I hope that, it's really up to you guys. I hope that you were able to get something from this talk this afternoon. And I just have something special for you all. I have a link on the screen. You can just type that in to just take a picture, or you can just type that in later on. It is a worksheet for you to get to know yourselves better. And I would like to give it to the participants of this talk, and I hope that we can continue the conversation. So you can email me anytime, and you can also connect with me on social media. I would really love to hear more about your questions and give you any kind of advice at all. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the organizers for having me this afternoon. And I wish you all a very warm and Merry Christmas.